Tom Libelt is a former Polish rapper. He's had multiple hits on the top 10 charts, but he's also a very successful entrepreneur. Now he helps entrepreneurs and coaches create online courses that sell. And this podcast is all over the place, this interview. We start with talking about the rap game. And then in the middle, he gives me an amazing idea for an online course, how he would do it, how he would sell it. And he has incredible marketing ideas that you can use for your courses. He mentioned specific conferences to go to. We go over the positioning of the course and how you could position your course potentially. And then the final segment of this podcast, we get super real about how depressing and meaningless life is, which is a topic I love to talk about. And we talk about the struggle of some of his friends and him and me, and how once you start making money, once you start having a little bit of success, it's very easy to lose sight. And it's a lot easier to go on random tangents and try to fill your life with nonsense, which is interesting. Sometimes life is depressing as an entrepreneur. And these are issues, what we talked about on this podcast, are issues that you can't really bring up to people that aren't successful. They don't understand. So check this out, enjoy. Here's our conversation with Tom Libelt. Let's jump into it. Tom Libelt is a serial entrepreneur with a background in documentary filmmaking and the music industry. Tom specializes in SEO for small businesses and influencers and marketing online courses at WeCreateOnlineCourses.com with his partner, Till Carlos. He's also the founder of the Smart Brand Marketing Podcast, where he and his guests share their knowledge and expertise on how you can grow your business online. I was just a guest on Tom's podcast, and I mean, he's got an interesting story. He also was a rapper in Poland and so much other stuff that I cannot wait to dig into. Welcome to another episode of the podcast, by the way. I think I forgot to say that up top, and let's jump into it. Hey, Tom, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, man.
So tell me a little bit more about your background. So like, how did you go from, I know this is kind of a general question, right? But how do you go from rapper to selling online courses? It definitely wasn't a straight line, right?
Yeah, there's no straight line there. Yeah, I wanted to be in the music industry since I was pretty young, but I always wanted to be in business too. So even in middle school, high school, always focusing on the business part, which was difficult because they don't want to teach you business, So I always tried to do stuff on the side. But it was the same with the music industry. I was always trying to make beats, DJing, trying to write stuff. And I don't know, man, like people say, in your 20s, you should do the stuff that you want and then get serious in your 30s. So I kind of done that. But in my 20s, I felt like, look, I need to gain one skill. So that was sales. So I worked for a lot of companies that trained me and sent me out and taught me how to sell. But I always also wanted to do everything I wanted to do in the music industry, right? So I worked for some music studios, some big ones in New York, worked with the artists I used to listen to, which was an interesting experience. Some are not what they what they seem to be, especially with hip hop, man. You have this like really hype rapper or something. I can actually give an example. MOP, very high energy on tracks. And I'm recording these guys, and they're like just eating like chicken and pig feet and sitting on the stools when they're rapping. I'm like, this is not at all what I pictured this to be, and it was just, it was interesting. But once I accomplished what I wanted to in the music industry, I just got back into business, and marketing courses and creating courses really came from the SEO agency that I built. One of my clients was a Muay Thai champion, and he just asked me, can we create an online course? I like working with you. I said, I don't know, but we can try. So we did. Then it just kind of went from there. I got more clients, and that's often how things start with me, right? Like even my podcast, one of my good friends is like, Tom, you should start a podcast. And I said, that's the dumbest idea I ever heard, and had a podcast going the next week, So I do like starting things
too. I always yell at the person. I'm like, why are you even telling me this? And then the next day I'm doing it.
Yeah, so that's really how you accomplish a lot of things, man. Like we filmed a documentary, and it was when I was like, okay, I'm bored. What should we do? What if we film a documentary? And then like, oh man, that's a lot of work. Like last year, I've been in the online course space for a while, and I'm sitting with a friend of mine, and she's like, Tom, I do a lot of these events here, and I want to talk to you about the events. I'm like, events, huh? Like, what if we do a conference next year on online courses? And she's like, what? I'm like, yeah, why not? Why not do that? And now we're doing an online course conference this year, actually, because it's this year now, October, with her. So, I think, just pulling the trigger a lot of the times, like helps you just jump into these things that you would normally not jump into.
Yeah. Well, what I love about your story too is, I mean, you kind of proved that you can do something completely different in your 20s and still net out okay. Like you went all in on rap, you know? Like my little brother is also trying to be a rapper, and I was judging him recently. I'm like, "Dude, you're what are you doing?" But
All right, man. Let me help you with your brother. Right? There's a documentary. There's a documentary called Adult Rappers. You can find it on YouTube.
Mhm.
Watch that, then talk to him.
All right, yeah, I will check it out. That's interesting, yeah, because he's. It seems like you get really into a project or whatever, and then you can lose yourself. Like you know, you're rapping all the time. You're losing yourself. You're not really thinking about sales or making money or anything like that. But it's interesting that you can come right back to it and be fine.
Yeah, it's true, but so here's the thing with me, right? Like when I worked in the hip hop and music industry back in those days, like it was the tail end, right? But you could still get jobs at these big studios as an engineer and work with the top talent. That doesn't really work much anymore. They almost all shut down, right? So it's a much more difficult process now when it comes to getting in the industry that way. I was living in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, right, which had roughly a million Polish people in the surrounding areas. And I used to live in Chicago before, which had around 1.5 or 2 million or around that number of Polish people too. So that was a big market, right? Like I was in the industry and I just felt like, okay, I don't want to be famous in the US because that's too much fame. I do want to be famous maybe in the small Polish market, but then I can go to the neighborhood next over and nobody knows me, right? I get the, like people say you can't get your, eat your cake and then still have it. Well, I did both. You can a lot of the times if you really think it through. But just going and, I have some friends now who are just trying to get in the hip hop industry in the US. I'm like, oh man, that's extremely difficult because now the market changed. So they want you to have a platform and sell a ton of product before they sign you when that's the moment you don't even need them anymore, right? So you're just looking for a distribution deal. It's very different. Like your brother will need to learn or have a team of marketers and be able to sell this stuff much more than any hip hop guy from when he probably listens like back in the days like the 90s or whatever, like those guys. Like they didn't have to do that. They got a contract, they rapped whatever they did, they showed up at concerts and that was it. The only skill you needed was rap. It's not this only skill you need anymore.
Yeah, for sure. That's interesting. All right, let's pivot over to online courses because we're thinking about creating one soon. What do you think? What do you think is the what would be kind of your framework, or where should our mind kind of be as we're trying to think about this course?
So online courses are actually very similar to if you were doing a music product, right? You need to sell the idea, get that out first. Don't create a course and then try selling it. You need to position, pre-sell, and validate this thing before you actually go in and so you should have people asking for it basically. I always say, if you can try to sell this idea to a couple people in person, and I think you'd be really good with that because you do a lot of outreach and have some conversations with them, then it'll be much easier to frame the way the course should be because you know what they're looking for. Like you can find out like the different pillars, that you can base your course on. So I would definitely have a lot of conversations with clients and figure out what it is that they want to buy, what concepts they want to learn, and just copy that over to the sales page and then fit the online course within those parameters, whatever it is, to be able to sell it easier.
That's
So
interesting.
kind of pre-package it, right? And then kind of make the meal later.
So we've had a couple comments of people asking, or I saw a comment recently. It was, Alex, when you make a course, let me know. So you would you would recommend, what I'm hearing from you now is dig in with that guy instead of just saying will do.
Yeah, for sure. I'd be like, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm thinking about it. Which pieces are you looking for? Like, what's the part I can help you with? Because look, this is the thing with courses. No one cares about information anymore. So you will not sell a course because you have good information in it. Info is free. People are used to going on YouTube, wherever, just to get info. The only thing people are paying for is the transformation and saving time, right? So I had a conversation with a client who's wrote some best-selling books, and I'm like, oh, Tom, I can just send them a free book. I'm like, nobody wants your goddamn book. If I want to read a book that's going to take me 10 hours, I'll pay $10 for that nonsense. If you can boil all that info down into 30 minutes for me, yeah, I'll give you 500 because you just saved me 9.5 hours, right? And he's like, what? I was like, yeah, that's what people are looking for. They want to save time. They want to get just the nuggets, just the gold, whatever you're giving out of that. There needs to be a transformation, and then you need to put a value on the transformation, right? So not all transformation is the same. If you're teaching people how to build a birdhouse, the transformation is worth like $10 at most. If you're helping someone uh, land 1,000 followers on Instagram and monetize them, that could be potentially much more. It really depends on what you're selling, what the transformation is, but that's what will sell the course.
That's interesting, yeah. So it's almost like I think we have 800 videos on the YouTube channel. It's almost like we have to pick, the 2 hours of those 800 videos and just really boil everything we've learned down into this really small project lengthwise. Just heavy value. And then yeah, we can charge like 2K for it.
Yeah, super heavy. I would actually think of initially going like maybe an hour, and creating some upsell courses, right? Like don't. That's another thing. You will not do well by boiling all of it down because you're gonna have 20 different ideas. One course should transform people in just one area, right? So like on your website, you have like lead generation or content marketing and things. Those are two completely different things. So you would not boil those down into one course. You would not make each one a module. Like just give people the insight. Okay, if it's content marketing, the only thing people care about is like, okay, how do I put out content that is going to be read by a lot of people, and how do I make money from it? So that transformation needs to be like, okay, I'm going to teach you how to put out content that's going to be read by people and will make you money within an X amount of time. And that's a transformation. Now you can put a good value on it. Because if you're doing like, okay, I'm going to teach you about content marketing and I'm going to teach you about lead outreach and this and that, it's just too much. People just won't understand that transformation and the value is going to be a much harder sell. It's going to be like, okay, it's like now I'm taking a class. So what is a class worth? My community college, maybe $1,000 or something. You know what I mean? Like they just won't be able to grasp that idea.
So I wonder if it's boiling it down even more, like maybe a course on just finding a business idea, or a course on finding the right people to sell to, just even more granular than that.
I wouldn't do that because finding a business idea, how much is that worth to you? I don't know. Like I pay $25 on Fiverr for someone to come up with, like
Yeah.
it's got to be more of a transformation you can assign value to, right? And usually in your industry, that would be actual money that they get from whatever, or the skill that's going to make them money, because it's that's what everyone looks for. No one goes into business to make the best logo. We go into business to make money, right? So then we can do whatever else we want, and that's obviously how you would sell later on, because the money thing, that's just an indication of value. But no one actually makes money to make money. We just make money because we need it to do whatever we actually really want to do in our lives, and those are the reasons why someone's taking that course.
Yeah.
But
So
there
I think
still needs.
it's something as simple as how to get your first enterprise client, something like that.
There you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that would be a clear transformation and a clear indication of value, because how much is a typical enterprise client worth?
Right. 100,000.
Right. So if I'm selling you a course for 2K, that's going to possibly net you 98K or whatever, 70 after your expenses. That's huge. That's huge.
For sure. Okay, so you come up with the idea, right? So we have an audience that we can sell to. I'm expecting us to be able to sell from that audience. What have you found most effective after that? So affiliates, paid ads, like what are your top channels there for promoting a course?
Usually, if you have an audience, things are much easier, right? Because you start with the audience, you move to remarketing. Paid cold traffic is the last thing you should be doing, and then the right partnerships, right? So I've had a client that was able to over 10x their business in 6 months just by finding one right partnership, and that would not be difficult for you because once again you know how to sell to enterprise, so it would be much easier for you to go after these bigger partnerships. Affiliates, they're okay, but the affiliate market is still fairly dirty, right? So a lot of refunds, people doing really shady things just to sell whatever you're selling. Like there's little control. You can easily mess up your name with affiliates. I often say partnerships are a much better way, and then remarketing with paid traffic. That's usually an easy way to double or triple your business once you're selling pretty well with organic.
What are you looking for in a partner, or how are you finding these partners?
Well, they need to align with what you're doing, right? So I'll give you an example. I had someone on the podcast. She is doing boot camps on productivity, right? And her partner that really made a difference was Brian Tracy, because he's in a very similar niche. He's in the motivational, also productivity, but productivity is a very small piece of what he's doing. A lot of integrity with Brian Tracy, and then a huge list of people who respect him. And that's what moved her needle forward. I think she even said that it was a 10x on her business just from that too, which was insane. But yeah, I would look for partners who are in a similar space, but way above you, and you can align with them. So you can fill that gap, right? Like with Brian, he's like he speaks on productivity, but he probably doesn't have a product that's really in that little part of it. So she could have, she came in and she's like, I got this. It's a quality product. I have a good following. People respect me, and would you like to work with me? And his people said yes, and it was a great partnership.
I see what you're saying. So Brian Tracy does mostly sales and motivation, but she's selling
Yeah.
productivity, and it's pretty close to what he's doing. All right, so I got to be looking at enterprise, not enterprise salespeople. I got to be finding like maybe SEO people, and I'm selling a cold email course or something like that.
Well, not necessarily, right? So a lot of people who are looking for selling enterprise clients are going to Anthony Robbins's workshops too, because he has workshops on changing your life, changing your business, changing stuff. He has a lot of business people, right? There are huge people like that. He actually had a course on making money and on business, right? Someone like Eben Pagan, for example, too. He had a huge course on businesses. You could fill that
I
gap
know Evan by
and
his
work
other
with these
name,
guys.
David
You know,
D'Angelo.
yeah, I know that one too. Yeah, it's when I seen that the first time, it was like seeing my favorite rapper, just being completely what he's not. It was one of these things. I'm like, what is happening here? I've seen Eben's morning productivity videos, and I've seen his dating seminar, and I'm like, what
I
is
came at
this?
it the other way. I didn't even know Evan Pagan existed. So when I saw him as a marketer, I was like, oh, this is a scam the whole time. Cool.
Yeah, but that's what you're looking for, right? You would be looking for these type of people you can align with because they have huge lists, right? Someone like Ramit Sethi or
Mhm.
all these guys are in a similar spot where they have people who would be interested in this, and then you can fill that piece for them, because they probably spoke about selling to businesses, but I'm like, oh, okay, let me teach your guys how to land their enterprise client. And then you're like, oh, that would be great.
That is interesting because I've seen Ramit talk about what to do after you hit 100,000 in sales, stuff like that. He hasn't talked about scaling to $1 million in business. Like he hasn't talked about anything advanced really at that level, as far as I know. So that's actually really interesting because a lot of these like make your first dollar online guys would be a good fit for this because this is the next level after people make their first 1,000, 10,000 online.
Well, yeah, they would be like someone like Pat Flynn.
Mhm.
He's going after the newbies, but then he knows and he understands this. When people make their initial 50, 100K, like they just leave his website. Like there's no reason to stay around. So this would be an extension of something they can still give. Like, oh, okay, if you've got value out of this, I helped you make that first 100K. Well, this is how you can 10x your business, and maybe take this course. I don't know. There's a lot of potential partnerships there for you.
That's interesting, yeah. And then I guess, well, so my skill is cold email. I'm just thinking cold email. I could probably even just go to a make money conference and just shake a couple hands, knock it out.
All you need to do is go to a traffic and conversion summit.
Mhm.
That's really it. That's like where last time I went, there was about 4,000 people, and you have probably 80% not making much, but you have 20% making huge amounts, and then the faces of the industry always want to show up there. But still 20% out of 4,000 people, that's enough. All you need is like 2 or 3 partnerships.
Yeah, it's interesting. Right. Okay, so what are you trying to do now with your life? Like, I actually would really love your perspective since you've done so much in terms of music and now you're doing business. Like, what are your priorities now? What are you trying to do?
That's difficult, and I've been really thinking about that too. I'm still working a lot because I've got into the marketing course business pretty hard, so we're completely booked with clients. But I do like having my time back too. I've had these like ups and downs a lot in my life where I have a lot of money and a lot of time, or a little money and a lot of time. Like I've been through all these cycles, right? And I know I can't not work because I get bored and I just come up with ridiculous stuff like film a documentary.
That was me the last like 8 months.
Yeah, so it happens, but I have a lot of freedom, right? Like I can live wherever I want to. I'm in Chiang Mai, Thailand right now. I'll be heading down south to Krabi to go by the beach for about 2.5 months. Then I'll go to the States, so I can go to Europe. I've stayed out there. It's difficult, man. Like when you have too many choices, it makes things harder. Like I remember my life was much easier when I sort of had to do just something because I had to do it. I have to stay here because I have this job. I have to go to this job because I have nothing else. Like things were easier, but it's kind of more fun now. It's you know you're going to wake up no matter where you are. You're gonna wake up sometimes and just say, like, what's the point? It doesn't go away. I've hit a lot of goals that I thought I would never hit when I was younger. Like if you told me back then, like, oh, you're gonna be this, this, and that, and make this much money, you'd be like, yeah, whatever, please. But it happened. And I still feel the same. I'm like, okay, so what's next? What is the point? What are we doing? I just had a friend sell his company for $4 million, and he's like, what next? It's it's it just doesn't go away, man. I don't think there's a clear answer. I guess just figure out, a routine that you enjoy, because routines do make things easier. I've been following Jocko with his extreme ownership for a while,
Is that Jocko Willick?
and it's true, man. Yeah, yeah, routines really do make life much, much easier.
It's pretty interesting, yeah. Because I'm coming out of a wandering period myself. I just made a movie. It wasn't a documentary, it was a narrative film. We've made a bunch of documentaries and animations and stuff like that too. But yeah, I mean, I feel so much. Well, I felt happy while we were making the movie. I felt super stressed before it. And I don't know, I felt happy also this week when I was optimizing all of our business systems. So, yeah, I don't know.
But that's what happens, man. Like you're just gonna go through these cycles, right? And like sometimes you'll go through this creative cycle, and sometimes you'll be like, you know what, I just need to just focus on something and just grind it out. But I don't think it's ever going to go away, and especially if you have more income. And that's the thing too. When you start making more money, you stop thinking about money. That's one of these things where I couldn't believe it, but it's true. When I was younger, I was always like, oh, I need to make this much, so life would be easier. But once you kind of can afford most of things, you're just like, the money's not the goal anymore. Like what next? The money didn't make me happy. Like I can make more, yes, but what's next? And then, you start doing these creative things. Sometimes you just go hard into your business and start tweaking it. I don't know, man. Like you got to find something to fill your time or you go nuts.
Yeah, for sure. That's interesting. A lot of people go into, I guess they focus on family and stuff like that.
Well, you can too, but I mean, I spend too much time with my family. I want out.
Right.
Like that's the thing too, right? Like my parents are getting older, so I'm going back to the States, and I'm gonna go, see my mom for her retirement and birthday and stuff. But let's keep it real. You see your mom for like a week or more, it's like, okay, I'm good now. I'm good for a while.
Oh man.
And then, if you have your own family too, it's like, look, and then you hear this all the time. Like people will, have kids and a wife and things, and then, the kids leave. People have different interests, and after a while, you're just like, what is the point? No matter who you talk to, at some point they're gonna wake up and be like, yeah, I don't know, do I really want this? Like, I know my friend's dad. He's been working in a business, put like 3 kids through college and stuff. And I spoke with him, and he's like, he's from Japan, and then he's like, you know what I would want to do, Tom? I took care of my family. I would leave them all here and go be a sushi chef in America.
The thing is, okay, so no, what I found with that is if he went to America and became a sushi chef, like maybe he would love it, but I feel like sometimes people either one need to say that out loud to hear how weird it sounds, or two, he just needs to be a sushi chef for like a weekend and then he'd be fine.
He's one of these guys that actually just very Japanese work ethic. He wants to put in the next 10, 20 years into whatever to become great, and he can focus that hard. But he just feels like, he's done it. He put in the 20, 30 hours into his current business. He put in the 20, 30 hours into his family. That's like, he's like, I'm good. I'm good. Like I could just go and do that now. It's but it's interesting, man, because this guy, like, he made it. Like, if by any standards, if you were judging him by family, by kids, by money, business, anything, like, he made it. They're all taken care of, they're all fine, but he just like, I'm just tired of it. I want to do something else. Like, I just want to become a sushi chef and start from scratch again. It's hard, man.
Well, you know this, right? Because internally, it's like everyone else can think you made it, but if you don't like what you're doing, I mean, you haven't made it, right? Like at some point, you decided to put music down and go hard on business, or
Yeah, so
make a
yeah, so
documentary, or
with
whatever.
with the music thing, yeah, what happened for me is I was around 25 at that time, and I was in a good spot. Just put out 2 albums, really well received. We were in the top 10 with a couple hits. We had a top Polish TV station come and do a documentary on us, and I was about to be signed by a big label. But I'm like, I'm 25 now. Like, if you asked me this when I was 18, 19, I would have been like, hell yeah, let's do it. But I just worked my ass off. Around 25. Do I really want to spend the next 5, 10 years on bus tours and creating a new album every year? No. I've done my 2 albums. I've seen what that, the fame is like, the concerts. I was like, it's great, but like, what's next?
Mhm.
Like, it's kind of sad. And with the adult rappers, I kind of make fun of it a little bit too. I do listen to a few, but for a lot of them, like I've met some of these guys, man. Like I met the guy from Group Home. He was pretty big, for like one album. And dude was like living in Pennsylvania, came to New York, tried to come into the Polish hip hop industry. This is an American guy. Charged like $500 for a verse. Like he could barely scrape some money together. I was like, dude, like man, this would be sad if that was me when I was like 40. Just like trying to like sell my verses for $500 to a completely different niche that I'm in. Like I don't know. It just he actually helped me a lot to make decisions back then because I used to listen to his tracks when I was younger, and I was like, my God, man, this is not what I want to be doing. But then you have someone like Jay-Z who just combined the music and the business, in a way where he's making a lot of cash. But there's a handful of those guys.
Even for him though, I mean, he's rapping, but he's probably doing business a lot more than he's rapping.
Oh, way more. Yeah, I think the last album I didn't even like any other tracks, but it doesn't matter. He pre-sold like 1 million of those. Like I think Samsung just bought 1 million before he even put the first one out. It's all about business at that point. Yeah, it's mostly business now. But yeah, with these, and it's not even that you don't like what you're doing. Sometimes success usually is boring, right? That means your business is working well, your systems are working well, your employees are working well, and you just get bored. That's all it is, because it's like that's usually when business is exciting and things are happening. That means you don't have your shit together yet. Once you do, it usually becomes boring. There's just everything works. When you listen to Anthony Robbins, what he tells you to do and what he does himself is very different. Like he does the same thing every single time. His business doesn't change. He does the same seminars, but he tells you to, like rack the shotgun and do all these different things and then figure out and do journaling. Yeah, he did that too when he was 25 or 30, but he doesn't do it now. Like his business is probably super boring. Like he knows exactly what's going to happen for the next 2 years.
And that could either lead to depression or like that's inevitable to me, right? Like I don't know how he's not trying. I don't know how he hasn't killed himself.
Well, this is the Jocko concept, right? Like just fall in love with your routines. Because if you enjoy your routine, then you can go through that grind and through that sameness. But if you don't like your routine, then yeah, dude, you're probably going to get depressed.
That's interesting. Yeah. I found what works for me is just constantly changing it up. So like I was kind of burned out on the business, then I made the movie, then I got kind of burned out on the movie. Now I'm back in the business, it's just constantly just changing it up every couple of weeks.
Yeah. And I've done that too, like I like to blow stuff up and move on. This is like for a while I lived in like a different city or a different continent like every 2 months, but I find that doesn't really work well long term either, for just happiness levels. Because you just can't set up any roots or anything really, which you also need, so it's blowing stuff up. It's fun, but I think, you realize at some point like, yeah, okay, maybe I shouldn't do that. Maybe I should push through that resistance and see what comes out on the other side. And that's a concept too I learned from, I think it was Steven Pressfield in like War on Art and Churning Pro. I think you should read Churning Pro if you haven't read that yet.
Yeah, I've read it.
It'll help you kind of.
It was great. I might reread it. I read it probably 3 years ago.
Yeah, then these books like Essentialism and The One Thing, sometimes they'll help. But once again, it's going to come down to the routine. Like you need to enjoy your days, kind of what they look like. Because shit's gonna get boring at some point, or or just always. So just make sure that like 80% of your time you actually enjoy it.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Tom. Where's the best place for people to check you out online?
Just smartbrandmarketing.com. That's the like the umbrella over everything else I do.
You sound depressed now, dude. Hopefully this didn't hurt you.
Dude, man, like I started thinking about this. You just brought me into that. Like, oh, no. Yeah.
Thanks for being on the show.
All right, man.
Thanks for listening to another episode. If you want more content like this, subscribe to the podcast. If you want more in-depth B2B sales training, of course, check out the YouTube channel, b2bsalestraining.org. And if you need marketing support for your digital agency, Experiment 27 helps digital agencies grow their number of leads by building lead generation systems. That is Experiment27.com. There's also notes on all the podcast episodes there and free sales courses, which we've gotten some very good feedback about. You can also check out my social media. I'm on Twitter, Alex Berman with no E, ALX Berman, or Instagram, Alex Berman 1. Till the next episode, I will see you later.